Palestra muito interessante, portanto queríamos esperar mais um bocadinho para que viesse mais gente. E não se esqueçam que todos têm acesso à tradução simultânea com os telefones que têm à vossa frente, se precisarem, também podemos fornecer, está bem? Começar aqui a falar um bocadinho sobre a palestrante, depois vamos chegar a esse tema. Kirsten Palladino é uma educadora, empreendedora premiada, consultora da política, conhecida palestrante internacional e autora publicada. É cofundadora e diretora editorial da Equally Wed, da revista de casamento LGBTQ+, líder mundial, bem como criadora da Equally Wed, um curso internacional e uma comunidade para profissionais de casamento e eventos com mentalidade inclusiva. Como uma das maiores especialistas em casamentos LGBTQ+, turismo LGBTQ+, e inclusão LGBTQ+, desde 2010, Kirsten escreveu, foi entrevistada e apareceu em inúmeras publicações importantes, incluindo Huffington Post, Los Angeles Times, New York Times, Forbes, The Wall Street Journal, revista New York, revista Time, revista Go, revista Glamour, revista Not, Martha Stewart Weddings, Brides e muitas outras. Kirsten é convidada recorrente em estúdio das principais redes de notícias, como a CNN, NPR, CBS, e em vários podcasts, webinars e palcos de conferências de casamento e eventos em todo o mundo, incluindo Engage, Global Wedding Summit, WIPA, NASC, Wedding MBA, eventos WeddingPro Educators and WeddingPro, LGBTQ+, Wedding Congress, White Dress Society, Retreats e agora o encontro de Wedding Planners e cerimonialistas em Portugal. É autora de Equally Wed, The Ultimate Guide to Plan Your LGBTQ+ Wedding, o primeiro e único livro de planeamento de casamentos com género neutro para casais LGBTQ+, publicado pela Seal Press, parte da Edge Group, que é uma das principais 5 editoras dos Estados Unidos e disponível onde quer que os livros sejam vendidos. Um forte aplauso para Kirsten Palladino.
Olá. Can everybody understand English or you have your headphones? Okay, I don't want you to miss this. Okay, alright, so I'm going to step out of the way so you can see the screen when I very much. Oh, there we go. Okay, raise your hand if you have ever been in love. Okay, very good. So you understand the magic that you feel, the connection, empowerment, it's everything. I am sad that not everybody raised their hand, but we'll get to it. This is me and my wife. When we fell in love, it was magic. We felt on top of the world. And we're very lucky to have a very accepting family who supported us and still supports us. We live in a city that is very LGBTQ+ friendly. My wife is non-binary, and so having a community that supports us is beyond incredible. But one day, Maria proposed to me in New York in Central Park, and it was another magical moment in our lives. But when we got back to our town of Atlanta, we didn't realize the heartbreak that was waiting for us because I had never planned a wedding. I didn't know. I was a writer and editor for a local newspaper. I went to a bookstore, as people do, in 2008, and I got all of the magazines and all of the books, and I laid them out on our dining room table, and I started to feel really sad because there was no one who looked like us getting married. In 2008, I thought that was modern times, but the world had not caught up with who we were. And being LGBTQ+ is nothing new. It's about society appreciating and recognizing who we are. So not only were we not able to find visibility for people like us planning our weddings, but then we had the challenge of finding vendors who were willing to work with us, who would return our phone calls, return our emails, who wouldn't just say, no, I don't believe in that. We got massive amounts of rejection, and it was so hard. But we did finally find the vendors that we needed to get married in 2009. And what we realized along the way was that we were not alone in what we were challenged with, what we were experiencing. So, I'm not talking too fast, right? You can hear me and understand? I'm going to be careful with the language. So we were amazed that all across the world, there are couples like us who were facing the same challenges of planning their weddings. Because I am a writer and editor, and I was marrying a graphic designer and website developer, we decided to launch an online magazine to give our community what we needed. And that was 14 years ago. Over the years, I have interviewed hundreds and hundreds of couples about their experiences all around the world, in Portugal, in the United States, in Canada, Mexico, everywhere. So I thought I would share some of their stories with you and some lessons that we can learn from them. Does that sound good to you? Okay, vamos lá. So this first couple, Cami and Pamela, they live in the United States, but they wanted to find a place where it was okay for them to go on a honeymoon. There are many places that are beautiful in the world where we can get arrested for holding hands on the street. We can get arrested for kissing on the street, where it is dangerous to walk at night and to be ourselves. Where in some countries, they will refuse, in the Middle East, many countries, hotels will refuse to allow two men to share a king mattress. They will insist that there must be two beds, otherwise you cannot stay. It is dangerous to go out there and celebrate our love. And this is true today, everywhere. Even in the most LGBTQ plus friendly places, there are people who not only don't support us, but are angry at our existence. So we have trouble finding places that will accept us. This couple went to Bora Bora, and they stayed at the St. Regis Bora Bora because of the hotel's training and belief in LGBTQ plus equality. So here's what you can do. You can make your LGBTQ plus inclusion known, not just you are welcoming and friendly, but how you are inclusive. Do your LGBTQ plus employees have all the same insurance and benefits when they have children or adopt children? Are they given leave, even if it's their partner who maybe had the child? Are your employees trained to practice LGBTQ plus inclusion? Jazz and Abby have a really hard story. They're in Kansas in the United States. And Jazz is Vietnamese, first generation. And when Jazz told her father that she was marrying a woman, he said unspeakable things to her. So unspeakable that she couldn't even tell me exactly what they were. But she immediately left the home and drove away in tears and just cried and cried in her car. But that didn't stop her from wanting to marry the love of her life. She invited her parents, and she hoped and hoped and hoped that they would come, but they did not. Abby's father walked both of them down the aisle and gave her away at the end of the aisle. And then another man that Jazz was close to did the father-daughter dance with her. So we know how to overcome obstacles, but I want you to know what you can do. Our families don't always accept us. We need extra support and understanding from our wedding vendors. You probably maybe agree that wedding planners especially are part-time therapists, right? You have to help with all the problems that our couples are having. Sometimes we need extra help, extra love, extra understanding. Sebastian and Mark, let's see if I can just read right here. They were afraid of rejection. They were so fearful that it problems for them to find the right vendors because they just didn't know who was going to accept them, and they didn't want to deal with the homophobia, and they didn't want to deal with any ignorance. But finally they found, and they're German, they got married in Germany, and finally they found a wedding planner who was so inclusive. They knew right away, we can trust her. And then, as many planners do, they pull in all the other vendors, and so she was able to select the right team. So here's what you can do. If your website or social media channels show that you're open to working with LGBTQ+ couples, that is a huge help in making a choice. It immediately weeds out those who might not want to work with LGBTQ+ couples, saving time and stress on both sides. And what is unwritten here is that if you do not include LGBTQ+ couples on your website, the message to us is that you don't care, is that you don't want to include us. Or maybe that you work with us, but you're too ashamed to put it on your website. I might say some harsh things today. Okay, so this is their wedding planner. Her company is Mrs. Wright. And I brought up her website here to show you. She shares her pronouns on her website, she, her, and then she talks about the type of weddings that she creates, but you'll notice it's all gender neutral. She's not, oh, I do this for the bride and groom, or I do this for my brides. She just uses the word couples. And then if you scroll down on her homepage of her website, she has these two badges, LGBTQIA+ friendly, love is love, LGBTQIA+ friendly, and using the progress flag, which includes black and brown to recognize it. The black and brown folks in the LGBTQ+ community are often discounted, and then also the trans colors, the baby blue, baby pink, and the white. So she knows what's what, and she isn't afraid to show it, and that helps her get more bookings and people to trust her. This is her social media, and you can see right there she has her pronouns, and then she has a little rainbow and says, everyone welcome. It's that easy. Okay, Chalice and Perla had multiple challenges. Chalice is from Alabama, the United States, which if you don't know, Alabama is full of haters. And Perla is Italian. Together, they live in Osaka, Japan. They both are non-binary, and they both use they, them pronouns, and I realize they, them in Portuguese is not going to translate, but it is a gender-neutral pronoun that we have in English. They got married in Alabama. They didn't really want to, but the rights for LGBTQ+ people to get married in Japan are incredibly limited. And Italy, where Perla is from, while they have some rights, it's not everything. And they wanted full marriage equality. They wanted their relationship documented and recognized as equal to everyone else's marriage. So they went home to Sweet Home, Alabama. What I want you to take from this is that you know where LGBTQ+ people have full equality, so you can make helpful suggestions to your clients. So if you are a honeymoon specialist, if you help people plan their honeymoons or their destination weddings, that you don't suggest somewhere where we could get kicked out of the country for kissing in public. That you understand if you are a photographer, you're taking them to a place where you want to take save-the-date photos for the engagement, or if you're doing a couple's portrait session, you're not taking them to a location where it's dangerous. You're responsible for your couple's emotional well-being. They are in your hands. The second challenge that our couple faced was finding vendors who would respect their non-binary identities. We are going to get to non-binary. I know that it is a confusing term, but that was hard for them, especially in Alabama. But their makeup artist has gone through my training, Equally Wed Pro, and that is who helped them find all their other vendors in so if you are known as being LGBTQ plus inclusive, then oftentimes other people reach out to you and say, okay, help me build a team for this wedding. What can you do? Respect and honor people with the names and pronouns that they give you. I have this all the time with my wife, and I use wife and not spouse, and I know spouse is masculine in Portuguese, but sorry. But I use the word wife for the visibility, but wherever, if I'm in Mexico or Italy, and I say something about my wife, they correct me and they say, oh no, sposo, or I don't know how to say, I forgot, woman? Marito, in Portuguese. Italian, okay, marito there, okay. But people correct me and tell me who I am married to. I'm like, no. I told you I have a wife. That is it. When we share our pronouns with people, it is not hard to repeat back to them. But, it's just like when you are planning a wedding with someone, if they tell you they want their colors to be, brown and black, then you say, you might make a recommendation for that. Sorry, that's not a good example. But sometimes when people tell you who they are, we just want to respect it and mirror that language to them. You don't have to understand someone to respect them. I realize that our community is complicated, and it's okay for you to not know. Most of this stuff was not taught in elementary school, at middle school, primary, university, just throwing out words that might resonate here for school, the types of schooling here. And that's okay. It's okay to not know. What we need for you is to be curious and to be open. We're not trying to change everything. I want to expand your minds and expand your hearts. So, what is LGBTQ+? I would keep this really simple because we have many more slides, but I want to make sure that you know what the letters mean. L is for lesbian, you might have guessed that. Gay. B, bisexual. And I just want to take a note to mention for bisexual people or bi-curious that when you get married, you don't suddenly become not bisexual. You're not, I'm heterosexual now. You are bisexual for life, if that's how you identify. So what I want you to remember this is that 50% of the LGBTQ plus community is bisexual. And many of those people are in hetero-facing relationships. So even if you think you have not worked with an LGBTQ plus person, chances are you might have. And they're under no obligation to come out to you. But I just want you to continue to remember, you just never know who you're talking to, and you also never know whose loved ones are LGBTQ plus. T, I'm going to talk about transgender more in just a few minutes, but transgender is part of our community, and I will explain that in a minute. I want to separate that. Q is for queer. Queer used to be a derogatory word. We have reclaimed it. Queer to me is anything but straight. It can be gender queer, but it is usually sexual orientation. I identify as queer, meaning that for me, in simple terms, it's hearts, not parts. I don't know if that translates well. And the plus is so important. Whenever you're writing these groupings of letters, the plus means everyone else in our community, because we are just a vast community with so many different identities. So when you use the plus, you are saying, I understand that you're not just gays and lesbians. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about gender versus sex. Okay, but I do mean sex as in male or female. not the behavior. At birth, we are a sign of sex. You arrive on the planet, the doctor or doula, somebody says, oh, I see this body, I'm going to assign you male, or I'm going to assign you as a female. Sometimes people are assigned intersex, which means that they have some combination of biological traits that are associated with male or female. That could be external or internal. That's another story. But I want you to know that sex does not equal gender. Gender identity is what you align with. Many people, and actually, it's a very few amount of people who are non-binary in the world. But non-binary people don't identify as a male or a female. It doesn't sit with them. It's like if you identify as a woman and you are assigned female at birth, it's like somebody continuously calling you a boy. And you're like, no, I'm a girl. That's how it is to be non-binary. It's also how trans people feel. And sometimes they know as early as 4 years old. But okay, so perhaps, and I want to read this to you so that it translates. Gender is how we feel. Perhaps our gender aligns with our birth-assigned gender, which is cisgender, but sometimes it does not, which is transgender. So if you were assigned female at birth, everybody's like, oh, it's a girl, pedibends, then you are raised as a girl. If you, as an adult or teenager, identify as a girl or a woman or female, then the meaning of the word for that is cisgender, C-I-S, gender, it's up here on the slide. If you do not identify or align with the sex you were assigned at birth, then that is transgender. Transgender has nothing to do with your sexual orientation. It is your gender identity. The majority of the LGBTQ plus community is cisgender, meaning most of us do align with the gender we were assigned at birth. We do have time for Q&A, hopefully at the end. Oh, and also, the last part of that was, I want to make sure, so under the transgender category are non-binary people because of the definition of not aligning or identifying with the gender that or sex that they were assigned at birth. However, not all non-binary people identify as trans. So, just good to know. So gender versus gender expression. So if you identify as a woman, is it womanly if you wear trousers or pants, or don't wear makeup, if how you wear your hair? These are all gender expressions. And men in skirts, or women with a tie and a men's suit, so-called. Those are all gender expressions. It's how someone wants to express themselves. It does not make them gay. Or it doesn't mean that they're a different gender. It's just simply what they want to wear. Men can wear nail polish. We've featured men wearing wedding gowns in our magazine. We featured a groom wearing a suit but with a train, and his father walking down the aisle in a southern church, and that was really sweet. We have men who carry bouquets. We have women in suits, women who wear boutonnieres. All of this is not off the table, and these are gender expressions, and they don't necessarily mean that they have a specific gender. So what is non-binary? We talked about it a little already. But I want you to just remember that it's, just as much as you didn't choose to identify as a female, maybe, yes, you might have been assigned that way at birth, but you usually, maybe today you have a wake-up call, but you probably just feel in your heart who you are as a woman or as a man. Non-binary people feel just as strongly that they are not either. or maybe they're a little bit of both, and maybe they're genderqueer, but it is not a chosen thing any more than you chose to feel like a woman or a man. So, let's talk about pronouns. We all use pronouns. It started to become a hot topic in the talking about LGBTQ plus people, but you use pronouns every day, you know. She is going to school, or he is eating the bread, something like that. But when you're talking about someone who doesn't identify as a male or a female, then we use they or them in English. I was researching for this talk. What can we say in Portuguese? Because even they is masculine. And this seems like a patriarchal problem. But I did find, and I'm not going to pronounce this well, and I'm going to read the whole thing for people who don't speak English. Gender-neutral pronouns. In English, we have the word they as a gender-neutral pronoun. However, in Portuguese, they is masculine. Many non-binary people in Portugal use the pronoun ele. Other popular gender-inclusive pronouns include ilu, ile, and ili. You can also use the person's name in place of a pronoun, whether you don't know it or you keep forgetting, and that's okay too. It's okay. We're all learning all the time. But if you use their name over and over and over and never the pronoun they gave you, then it also can feel like you're avoiding it or you don't respect their identity. We're not here to change the world or your language. You don't need to change gendered words unrelated to people. The table remains la mesa, and the car will still be un carro. However, consider using gender-neutral versions of people. For example, instead of bridesmaids or groomsmen, try wedding party, festa de casamento. But you just get creative and think about all the words you say in your business that are on your website and think, how can I adjust this to include everyone? Dana and Kayla, they live in the United States, but they wanted to get married on a beach in Mexico. They contacted the resort that they were interested in. And why did they contact them? Because they had a picture of a lesbian couple on their website. They thought, this is a green light. They will accept us. They made the call, they started talking, and they were like, oh, okay. They started to realize these are two women getting married to each other. Instead of a beach wedding, let's do a private garden wedding. And they were like, no, we want to get married on the beach. And they were like, no, you'll be more comfortable in the adult area. It broke their hearts. You're ashamed of us? You have this on your website. It's false advertising. But when you are getting married, that is a huge celebration of your life and of your commitment to each other. It should be fun. Yes, it's stressful to get married, we know that. But it should be a magical, wonderful day. You don't need to be around anybody who doesn't agree with you or support you. So they got married on a beach in Key West instead. What you can do is give your LGBTQ plus clients the same respect that you give to your heterosexual clients, meaning don't treat us any differently. And do your own research with venues before recommending them to clients. You could have been doing weddings or working at a venue for years and it's your absolute favorite. But if you don't know where they stand with the LGBTQ plus community, then that's the research that's on you to do before you recommend it to your clients. Caroline and Jean, when they went to a wedding shop, a bridal boutique, they had said ahead of time in their appointment, we are a same-sex couple, we are two women. When they got there, the staff was unprepared. They couldn't believe it. Two friends came here together and they're getting married on the same day. It was mind-blowing. They couldn't understand. So their challenge was dealing with clueless vendors who were unprepared and didn't read the appointment notes. What you can do, don't simply educate yourself, educate your staff and prepare them for the possibility of LGBTQ plus clients. If needed, you can hire professional inclusivity trainers. It is really important also, and I'm going to talk about this a little later, that you continue to recognize that you're not always going to know if somebody is LGBTQ plus. You don't know if their best friend, their parent, their children, their wedding party, somebody with them, or somebody who will be a guest. Any one of them might be LGBTQ plus. And while 20, 30, 40 years ago people were hiding this, we're not hiding anymore. And people who love us are wanting to only work with companies who do support us. And I don't necessarily mean just love us as in like we're friends or family and we're close, but people who love the LGBTQ plus community at large. Okay, so examples. Instead of asking how he proposed, which is so common, tell me how he proposed. Ask the client to tell you about the engagement. You're keeping it gender neutral. Anybody could have proposed to you. It could have been a male, it could have been a female. So just asking, tell me about the proposal says, I'm not assuming who you are. You tell me. Instead of asking about someone's partner in a gendered way, such as wife or husband or bride or groom, wait, I don't know. I talked to, no, about this. No. But you can use a celebrant or celebrante, but I think that's still masculine. But you can get creative. Perhaps lovebird, periquito. Is that masculine too or no? Okay, all right. I don't know. You get creative. I am not a Portuguese scholar. Lauren and Melissa. They live in Texas in the United States, and they decided to leave their conservative city to get married in New Zealand because they wanted to be surrounded with openness, open skies, and leave behind anybody who didn't support them, didn't agree with them. So they went to a known place that is inclusive of our community where they can be themselves. What you can do, if you are located in an LGBTQ plus inclusive city or country, share that on your website. It helps LGBTQ plus couples understand the increased value of working with you. Go fast. All right. If you live in an area, and raise your hand if you can't read English. Okay, all right. If you live in an area without marriage equality and full civil rights for the LGBTQ plus community, get involved in helping to make change in the government. Find your local LGBTQ plus organization, donate your time, money, and services, but most importantly, listen to their needs. If you own a hotel, offer to host a gala or party or a fundraiser for the local LGBTQ plus organization. If you're a photographer, offer to photograph events. If you are a planner, Okay, move along. Marlon and Jesus. They wanted a photographer with experience with photographing LGBTQ plus couples. For them, it wasn't enough just to have an inclusive person, but they wanted someone who will not put us in these, poses like, the woman's in front, looking all small and dainty, and the man's behind, and, she's going to be so strong, that we sometimes want to be in different poses. We might not think of them, we need a photographer to think of them. So, what you can do is, if you have experience working with the LGBTQ plus community, make sure this is on your website, not just in words, but with photos. Don't hide them on a back page. Probably put it on your home page if you have other photos. If you do not yet have the experience, you can learn how to attract LGBTQ plus clients with a style shoot in my course, and I'm not trying to sell you, I just want you to know. I did a course on how to produce an authentically inclusive style shoot, which involves making sure that you are bringing in real LGBTQ plus models. It is not okay to use straight people pretending to be LGBTQ plus. Working with other inclusive vendors and using the correct language. I have a special offer at the end. I don't know if we're going to get to it. I want you to focus on progress, not perfection. This is all about learning. I learn every day. There's no way that you can know it all, and that's okay. It's just what matters is that you're trying and that you stay curious. Okay. I'm gonna... Okay. Okay, you know, I gave it away. But, all right. I wanted to ask you about what you're selling. You might feel like you're selling experiences, or a hotel, or gorgeous artwork, or gorgeous gowns. Something might be wrong. What you're really selling is trust. People, no matter their gender or sexual orientation, they are hiring you because they trust that you will be able to deliver on their expectations and their hopes and your vision, your creative vision or your professional services. But the number one challenge that our community faces is that we don't know who we can trust. It is not enough to say you welcome everyone. It is not enough for you to just tell people that you're okay with our community. You have to put it out there. We cannot assume just because you have a beautiful face, and you all have beautiful faces, that if we cannot assume just because that you look friendly, you'll be friendly to us, and that you'll accept us. Because we experience discrimination every day. So that is our expectation unless we see something different from you. And we want you to build trust with the LGBTQ+ community by sharing your inclusive values. You're in the hospitality industry, you want to make everyone feel welcome. However, so like all people, LGBTQ+ people deserve to feel safe, welcome, and affirmed. And by the way, I apologize for just reading. I don't read normally when I speak, but I realize you might not know what the text says. If you don't know, if you don't share your values, we won't know where you stand or how we'll be treated. I can give you these things via email. Do you want me to go back? I don't want to rush, but I don't want to. Okay. So it's important to ask open-ended questions. If you are we're going to, hopefully you have a little time. And also, just so you know, I'm trying to speed it along, but with my translator, I am open to questions at lunch too, just in case. But ask open-ended questions to your clients. Instead of saying, if you have, say, a lesbian client, you are not assuming that they will have 2 bouquets. What do you want your bouquets to look like? You say, what do you want your flowers to look like? If somebody is coming into your bridal shop or your suit shop, asking them, what is your vision for your perfect outfit? And don't just assume what they might be wearing. If you are planning the routine of how you might get up the aisle, don't assume that they're going to want to be walked up the aisle by a man, or even walk up the aisle. My wife waited at the altar with our priest, minister, Catholic, so maybe it's. And my wife is Italian Catholic. But anyway, we did things a little bit differently. But if you ask open-ended questions and let people tell you who they are instead of assuming, you'll go a lot further with your LGBTQ+ clients. Instead of referring to a generic bride or bride and groom, you can say the couple. Is that a masculine word? No. Okay, so you can say the couple. We use the term marriers at Equally Wed. It does not translate, but I am not saying you have to stop saying bride or groom, but in your website, you can say couples, or you can say brides, grooms, and couples. It's not about changing what you're doing, it's about adding so that you can be inclusive of everyone. And what you do in terms of inclusivity matters more. It matters to more than just the LGBTQ+ community. It matters to society at large. And some people are getting hired because they have these things on their website. They're getting hired by cisgender heterosexual straight people because it matters to them. Gen Z, those are your new clients. I want you to remember that like any other group of people, we are not all the same. So if you're thinking, well, I'm gay, I know all this, or that you know someone who is gay or transgender or non-binary, that is that one person's experience. We are all so different. My job as a researcher is to come up with the most common challenges or the common feelings to be able to teach all of you what you might most likely to experience. But even if you know just one person or 5 people in the community, doesn't mean that they can speak for everyone. 90% of our readers use the term bride or groom or Mr. and Mrs. It's more common in our community, even though I'm talking about a very small percentage of non-binary people. I want you to think about being inclusive of them. You tell me if I'm going too fast now. Okay. Train and vet your team. Set company expectations. You're only as good as your worst employee. So if you're doing everything right with your clients, but you have somebody, either it's a day of gig worker or a part-time person that just comes up and helps you sometimes, or they're there all the time, and they are saying things that you're not saying, that is on you. That's your brand. They're representing your brand. So you want to make sure that even whatever they say at their house, however they feel, that they leave it at home. And when they come and work for you and they represent you, if you are LGBTQ plus inclusive, then they need to reflect that not only with their face, not making faces at anyone, but also using the language that you train them to use. My wife and I had the catering staff at our wedding be really rude to our transgender guest, and it was really hurtful. And I judged the caterer, not them. You have to have, if you work for a big company, you have to have a leadership buy-in. If management isn't embracing and leading with these values, nothing changes. Change starts at the top. Okay, this is really important. Be authentic in your intentions. Please do not follow any of my tips if you are not truly interested in celebrating the LGBTQ plus community. I know this topic feels trendy and fashionable and you should all get on board. Please don't. If you don't feel that way, that's okay. I'm not here to change anybody's mind. I'm here to help people who do want to attract the LGBTQ plus community because you're interested in celebrating and welcoming the LGBTQ plus community as clients or as guests of the clients. But if you're not ready, just wait. You may change, you may not, and that's okay. But it is dangerous to use LGBTQ plus inclusive imagery or terminology, and it's false advertising, but it's more than that. It can lead to psychological damage for us. It is that serious. I want you to give yourself and others grace. It is okay to mess up. You are going to mess up. Being human is messy and it's hard. But what matters is that if you need to, you apologize and move on and just continue to dig deeper, keep learning. There is no finish line. It's you're not suddenly like, oh, I've done it all now. You have to keep going. And this is, if you want to grab this QR code, I am giving you some more information on how you can be more inclusive on social media. But because we had to skip a lot of my slides, I am going to figure out a way to get you even more information because we went super fast. I don't know if I'm just slow or 5 minutes. Okay, so we have 5 minutes for Q&A with my translator. If you have a question, raise your hand. I want you to know too, you will get my email address here, so if you have a private question, feel free. Not everybody feels comfortable talking about this stuff. Also, I want you to keep my email address on hand or on file because one day you may be presented with a challenge or a new client and you are unsure of what to say, and you want to make sure that you say the right thing, I'm here for you. If you don't have a queer friend, you do now, and I want you to stay in touch. Did you still have a question over here? You have a question here? Okay. Well, and I know that you speak English, but you'll need to ask it in Portuguese too, so everybody understands. Hi.
Just like imagine if you are like a venue, or well, if you are not an individual in social media, let's say, what should you put on your social media? You know, like should we put they and them? You know, if you are like a venue, or me, like a thank you. Do you think it makes sense to put like the pronoun on the social media?
If you are showing a client, should you share their pronouns? Is that the question?
Yes, like in Instagram, you can put, you know, like she, her, they, them.
Right. So in the caption.
But if you are a venue, you know,
oh yes,
like
yes,
I have a website or a magazine.
You're right.
You know,
No
like,
pronouns.
what should you put? Actually?
No pronouns. But you want to make sure in your bio that you have LGBTQ plus inclusive, love is love, equality enthusiast.
Everyone is welcome, no?
Everyone is welcome, is perfect. The little pride flag, that's great, that emoji. Anything that you can say that indicates that you are not just assuming it's going to be a bride and a groom.
Thank you so much.
And I will add too, on your website, if you have bios of your team, that's a great place to share pronouns and talk about your values.
I just would like to clarify for me the pronouns that you put on your presentation, but for the Portuguese language, because I don't understand exactly where do they come from.
They came from the internet.
Okay, lovely. Sounds like a good plan.
I researched before coming here because, and if you put in non-binary or gender-neutral pronouns for non-binary people in Portugal, then you will find the terms that they are using.
Yeah, I get it. But how do we know exactly which situation do we use what? Because
I'll tell you. So you ask. That's when you are meeting with anybody, you can say, my pronouns are she, her, he, him, whatever. May I ask what your pronouns are? And that gives them the opportunity. That gives them the opportunity to tell you who they are, what their pronouns are. It is a green flag, I like to say, that you understand that they might have a gender identity different than what society might expect them to. It is scary and uncomfortable at first. It feels like you are digging into something personal, but you're not, I promise you. Some people might not understand what you are asking. That's okay. You are going to have a ripple effect on changing the world by starting these conversations.
Well, I just want to say as well that thank you for the presentation, because it really clarified a few issues for me, and I'm quite, I've done a few, and it's actually quite nice to then have all of this information, all detailed, and thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, it's not for you, Kirsten. First of all, thank you so much. You know, can I speak in Portuguese?
Please.
Para quem me conhece sabe que eu sou tendencialmente um homem de desafios e de provocações. Por isso, following what you were telling to Kirsten, why don't you try it? Why don't everyone during lunch, for everyone that you haven't met yet and you want to meet, just do this. Hello, I'm Rui, my pronouns are he, him, and yours. Do that during lunch where with the people that you don't know. Just do that exercise during 1 hour and a half, because here is a comfortable space. We are all together. So we create this. I done this in
Great idea.
I done this in the conference where I met Kirsten, and it was really more easy for me when I come back, because the brain was already trained for that. So here's the challenge or the provocation, if you want.
Yes. Okay, we'll talk more. Oh, no, do we have time? Okay.
Thank you. I have a question that it's not, let's say, easy, I think. It's because we have, independently of being included in community LGBTQ+, we have a lot of clients and they have different attitudes in relation to any subject.
Oh, wait, can I pause you for a second?
Yes.
I'm hearing impaired, so if you could all be quiet, just so I can hear, I would appreciate it.
So my question is, we try, as not included in the community, we try to learn and be inclusive and respect. But sometimes we don't have the experience, or we are not usually using the pronouns in Portuguese are really hard to remember because they don't align with the ones that we normally use. And sometimes we can make that mistake. And when the client perceives that as aggressive or not respectful, and that was not our intention, how can we fix that situation? Because sometimes, and we have this, like I was saying, not in this specific community and everything, we have people that are not really accepting of the error or the not knowing, and they treat us like, oh, you don't care, you don't want to be doing this, and we are, but sometimes we're going to make mistakes, as you were saying. How can we fix the situation without being disrespectful, or they feel like we are? How can we fix this?
That is an excellent question. And remember when I was saying that we are not all the same? Some people in our community have been so hurt over and over and over that they can come across as angry because they're like, learn it already. But what they don't understand is today might be the first day in your lives that you have learned these things. So that's okay. And so even if they're not giving you grace, give yourself grace. You can apologize quickly. I am sorry. I am going to do better. And remember that you have promised yourself and them that you will do better. And then do better. It's very simple. Most people are understanding. Most people in the LGBTQ+ community are understanding. We are still understanding the evolution of language and finding words that we identify with. And most of us do not expect everyone to just be up to speed and know everything all the time. And also, it's really easy to make a mistake, and it's okay. Just apologize professionally, move on. Don't make a big deal of it, because then all of a sudden they are feeling like they have to come for you. But it's going to happen. Okay? Yes? All right. Obrigada.